So if anybody doesn't know how to self-mute.
Well, welcome everyone to the How to Become a Best-Selling Author, Secure Your Financial Future, and Help Change the World training call. Why don't you tell them, Jack, how they can self-mute if we should unmute them?
Yes, you'll see a little green microphone next to your name. Find your name, click on the green microphone, and that will self-mute. So you are in charge of whether we can hear you or not. If you're not speaking right now or have plans to ask questions right at the moment, make sure that you self-mute so that we don't hear dogs and cats and all kinds of craziness. Although we love dogs and cats and all kinds of craziness. It makes it hard for everybody else to hear.
We absolutely do. We are your hosts for this training. I am Gina Gaudio-Grace, the Dean and founder of Directions University at directionsuniversity.com. My partner in crime is none other than our Associate Dean, Jack Humphrey. And you guys are in for a real treat today. So why are you here? What are you going to learn today? Let's see if we can find out where that echo is coming from. Steve, you've got a little bit of some background noise, so you might want to self-mute. So what we're going to talk about today is a number of different things that are oh so important to your business. We're going to answer questions like, have you been struggling to attract new customers? What we're going to share with you today is going to help solve that problem once and for all. If you've been struggling getting JV partners to say, yes, I'd love to work with you, and instead you're hearing, no, not really interested right now, call me later, what we're going to share with you today is going to change that forever as well. And if you've always been interested in getting onto stages where you can sell your coaching program, your done-for-you products, your membership site, or anything else you've got to offer, but you just don't know how to get onto the bigger stages in your niche, what we're about to share with you will also change that forever. Are you interested in being a part of changing the world while securing your financial future? That's what you're really doing when you're authoring a book, turning it into a bestseller, and you're using the system that Jack and I are about to share with you. By the end of this webinar, you will have learned a three-step process. First, we'll talk a little baby bit about setting goals for your life and your business, why that's important, to what extent you need to do that. Next, we're going to talk about the second phase or second step of implementing your plan. If you've not been in the DU world ever before, you're going to hear some new terms today, including the term traffic vortex. The system we've created to help you plan everything for your business, how you're going to make your money, how you're going to drive your traffic, how your book fits into things, all of the stuff that goes into your strategic plan is something we call a traffic vortex. It really is a vortex first and foremost. Jack, what do we mean when we say traffic vortex? What's a vortex first?
Well, think of a tornado or think of a whirlpool. In those terms, you can watch those things in nature pulling everything from the outside in. They have sucking power. They have attraction power. So that's a vortex. It manifests in lots of different ways, but when you put it in to your business, it does the same thing with people and attention and links and traffic and search engine rankings and customers, money, yeah, all of that stuff. It does the same thing, and it works really that way. It's an incredibly apt description of the system because it really, once it's put in place, it works for everybody in every kind of business, every kind of industry without fail, 100% of the time. And it's pretty cool to say one day that you have your vortex all set up, your business model is set to vortex, and it has that gravitational power to attract all the exact targeted traffic that you need to get people into your funnel for your low-end to your high-end products.
And so we're going to be sharing how to plan your vortex. And in the process, what you're really doing is you're planning your entire business, including the book that you're going to write and turn into a bestseller status. part of that means taking this plan for your vortex and turning it into a profit funnel. And by the end of this webinar, you're really going to have that 3-step process down so that you can then go off after this training is over and start to implement your plan. I'm just pulling all those pictures up so I don't have to keep hitting click. So why should you listen to Jack and I, and why is the system that we're sharing with you something that you really want to use, not just listen to? Well, my name is Gina Gaudio-Graves. As I said, I am the Dean and Founder of Directions University. I didn't start out as a person who knew I wanted to become an entrepreneur. I started out as a lawyer. I went to Notre Dame Law School, was on Notre Dame Law Review. I thought that eventually I was going to become a law school professor. My passion has been teaching since I was in the 3rd grade. And I had done the research and found out that the highest paid teachers were around were law school professors. So that's where I set my sights. But just a couple weeks after I'd gotten accepted to teach law at my alma mater, Notre Dame, I got into a very serious car accident that changed my life forever. Over the next 10 years, it put me in a hospital bed or wheelchair. It caused me to have about $9.9 million worth of medical bills. And I turned to the internet in 1997 simply as a means to an end. I needed $40,000 a month in medication to keep me alive. And so I needed to find a way to do that. I thought I was going to become a day trader. But you know, my passion really is teaching. And being a day trader, I didn't have a big enough portfolio to make enough money to cover those medical bills. So I found a way to integrate my passion for teaching by going out to other membership sites that already had members and offering to come in and teach. And in doing that, I then had access to all of their people. And very quickly, they started asking me for something that I hadn't really thought about, a membership site of my own. So I ended up opening one of the very first membership sites on the internet back in 1997. I had about 500 members. I capped my membership at that, paying me $125 a month, pulling in well over $50,000 a month, taking care of my medical bills. And that worked really, really well. But as often happens, like what happened with me in teaching law school, life has other plans for us sometimes. By 2000, my health had declined so much that I really couldn't keep up with the demands of that membership site any longer. So I sold that business to one of my members, and I went into my next business. My second business, I thought, was going to become an internet ad agency. So I did everything I should have done to have an internet ad agency. But all of a sudden, people started asking me for something I'd never heard of, I hadn't contemplated, didn't even know what it meant. They were calling it joint venture traffic. I didn't know what that meant, but I was an ad agency. I knew what traffic was. I was a lawyer. I thought I knew what a joint venture was. So I went out like I'd done before and did some research. And what I realized was what they really wanted was a JV broker, someone that could help them find people to promote their amazing products and services. That seemed easy enough. I knew a bunch of people. Maybe I could do this and make my $50,000 or $40,000 a month to pay for my medical bills. So I went out and started becoming one of the very first JV brokers on the internet. And while I attracted clients very easily, you only pay a JV broker when sales happen. Although I had plenty of clients, I didn't always have plenty of money coming in, because I very quickly realized that just taking someone with great products and services and connecting them to someone that had tons of traffic and a large list didn't always make money. Well, that seemed really strange to me. Why would it not always make money? So I started researching that. And I quickly figured out that there were some key elements that had to be there on both sides of the equation. Or without them, sales were not going to happen. What it looked like to me was that I needed to have a system, some sort of system that was duplicatable, repeatable, that could be used in any business that I was doing joint ventures for, in any niche that I was doing joint ventures for. It took me about 2.5 years to actually figure out what that system looked like. And thank goodness during that time I had all these clients that had different business models, different niches, totally different businesses that I could test the system on. And it turned out to be one of the biggest gifts I've ever had, having all these different kinds of businesses to test on. In the end, that system became what I teach today. And had I not been brokering joint ventures back then, I would never have come across what that system could be. But once I found it, then every JV that I produced was absolutely going to work. Over the next several years, I was able to pull in as much as $4.2 million in under 7 days for clients like Jeff Paul and Sean Casey. I was also able to open the doors for brand new businesses, launch their very first products. First-time product creator John Reel. We sold over 1,500 units in 6 days, 17 hours, and 52 minutes, making John a ton of money and launching his business really quickly. But again, life had other plans for me. And in 2005, my doctors announced that I had just 12 to 18 months to live. Well, I was only 40 years old at the time. It certainly wasn't what I was thinking while people were calling me the JV Queen. I was thinking I was going to have this great career as a JV broker. But hearing that I'm not going to be here for very much longer, what the heck am I going to do now? My husband and I went home that night. That's him on the left-hand side. Bill and I sat down and talked about it. And together we decided that we wanted to see the country before it was going to be time to die. So he went out and found our RV, got it retrofitted with my hospital bed and my oxygen and my IV poles. And within just a couple of weeks, we hit the road, expecting we'd have about 8 to 10 months to see the country before we died, before it was time to go home to die. That's our RV in the lower right-hand corner. Well, on this trip, it turned out that my health started declining a lot faster than the docs had originally expected. Just 6 months into that trip, I was celebrating my 41st birthday. We were in Sedona, Arizona that week. And that week, I had been taking my blood to different hospitals like I had done every single week of the trip. But that week, I had 3 different hospitals bring me back the exact same test results that I didn't even know were possible from a blood test. All 3 results said, this patient is clinically dead. That's how sick I was on my 41st birthday. Well, Bill wanted me to have the best last birthday that I could. So he decided to take me to a massage therapist in Sedona, Arizona, hoping to help with the pain for just that one day. I got up on her table. She took one look at me, and she says, you know, you don't have to die as soon as you think. I started to wonder, did Bill tell her how sick I was? But he hadn't. I couldn't figure out how the heck she could even know. So I started asking her some questions. You know, what are you talking about? How'd you know that? What am I supposed to do? She goes on and explains that if I could remove the negativity from my life, I wouldn't have to die as soon as my doctors expected. Well, I proudly sat up on her table and said, I'm one of the most positive people you're ever going to meet. I don't have negativity in my life. She kind of shook her head and said, well, maybe you have a positive mental attitude, but if that's all you have, it's not going to be enough to save your life. Okay, now I got a little bit more confused, so I asked her some more questions. By the end of that one massage, she had really given me some great advice. And she said that it wasn't enough to just look at your mental attitude. You had to look at everything in your life, from the people in your life to your activities, the actions you take, the words you speak. You needed to have positivity in all of it. Well, I'd never really heard anything about this positivity stuff before. So as I had done so many times, I decided to go out and research it. And over the next 4.5 months, that's exactly what I did. And I applied as much of what I found as I possibly could. And very quickly, I started to see huge changes, huge transformations occurring. I went from a wheelchair to a walker to a cane to walking with no assistance at all, even though to this day I have no feeling in my legs and feet. I stopped 42 pills per day. I stopped 4 continuous IVs per day. I got all of my hair back. The picture in the center is me long after this transformation happened. And by the end of just 4.5 short months, I went from being at death's doorstep to being 100% well. And it's what I call my miraculous transformation. And it really made me start looking at everything differently. Life, business, you name it. And while I'd made a lot of money for a lot of people, myself included, by that point I paid off about $6.1 million hard cash in medical bills. What I realized was I hadn't done much of anything to make a difference. And the only thing I could see to do that could possibly repay the gift of life was to close the doors to my brokering business and go in a new direction, which is what really DU is about. Directions University is the next project I started, and my mission was very clear. My mission is to help every person on this planet to live the life of their dreams. It's a mission that I can't possibly accomplish on my own. But by working with entrepreneurs like all of you, helping each and every one of you to truly touch the lives of your customers and your prospects, together we really can impact the direction of the world and touch every life on this planet. And I am honored to have my partner, Jack Humphrey, here helping me with this mission, because it's really his mission as well, isn't it, Jack?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Why don't you tell him, who is Jack Humphrey?
Well, I'm a different person than I was even a year ago, it feels like. And it's no small coincidence that Gina and I started working together about a year ago. So I owe a lot of my business transformation in my later of the 16 years I've been doing this now, and to Gina. So thank you, Gina. I started out, I did some things where I thought I was going somewhere in life in one direction, and it changed. And the first time that was a significant one is I went to college for telecommunications. I got a scholarship, a David Letterman scholarship, to go get my education, and it was at Ball State, so I have to say education, not education. It wasn't Harvard, and so I went out and thought, oh, I'm going to get a job in radio or TV. I'm going to be a cameraman, whatever. It's funny how they make you make choices about what you're going to do in your life when you're so young and completely incapable of doing just that. But that's our college and education system. So I went out. I went to the biggest market on the planet for news. I went to Washington, D.C., and lo and behold, they were telling me you need to spend 14 years, 10 years in the sticks, out in some little tiny podunk town doing the local crop report or something like that before you ever come here. You don't. Everybody comes here. This is the mecca for everybody who wants to run a camera, do any kind of technical stuff, anything in this industry. So not being able to get a job there, and my fiance was there. She was doing a law internship, and I couldn't do anything in my field. So I went to work for Greenpeace. I walked in with a briefcase, my dad's briefcase, and a tie and everything else, because that's what I had been wearing for interviews for so-called real jobs. And they looked at me really funny. They were all wearing Birkenstocks and everything else, and I just was sticking out like a sore thumb. But they took all comers, and because it was fundraising, it was door-to-door, knocking on doors, warming people up right there at that moment to give a donation as big as they possibly could to the organization. Sight unseen. It's called canvassing. And I was really good at it. I was able to, break down people's barriers, all that kind of stuff very, very quickly. Right there, they open the door. It's around dinner time. Very inconvenient. People don't like doing that, of course, don't like opening the door. And then all of a sudden find themselves giving me a check. That's really hardcore. That's about the hardest sales you'll ever do in your life. And no targeting other than that I'm in a rich neighborhood. No targeting other than that. So I did that, and that started down a career of being interested in wildlife, wilderness protection. I did it for 11 years, and I got all the way up to executive director of a few different organizations. The last one was Sky Island Alliance, where I met and really key people and learned how to do wildlife tracking. So follow me here because this is a really weird story, but you won't forget it. So I'm learning. I'm out in the wilderness in southern Arizona, southern New Mexico, northern Sonora and Chihuahua, Mexico, with people who are coming from New York and LA and all over the world to learn how to do tracking and to learn how to protect wilderness. So we were ripping roads that were illegally made in the Forest Service lands and things like that because wildlife don't like roads. There's certain wildlife that can't even cross a road, not even a path. So once a path is made, that wildlife is stuck where it is. And if there's too many paths, there's too little habitat, blah, blah, it's a bad thing for the environment and for wilderness and wildlife. So I was doing that, and I could track mountain lions, I could track bears, I could track and show everybody exactly all the things they miss when they do power hikes. So all these guys come from all these big cities, and they're supportive, but they're just as good at being in the wilderness as anybody would be, which is not very good. If you don't know how to survive, you don't know how to do wilderness survival, and you don't know how to be very, very, very observant of your surroundings, your situational awareness, you miss everything. Sometimes you miss things that, could kill you. So it's a very serious but also very enlightening and very fun thing. And while a lot of these people were used to doing 20 miles a day hiking, we would do, when I was doing trainings, we would do 1 mile. If we were lucky. In a whole day, we would only cover a mile. But they would see more in that mile than they would ever see in 20 to 30 miles of hiking, of their power hiking, because we would be observant. We would look around. We'd see little hairs on the trees and the bark where a bear had just passed and rubbed on the tree. And little things like that they would never see if they were just doing. So I tell that story to tell this story. When I stopped doing that, I got burnt out. It's very hard to watch beautiful places die or be threatened and be the activist person for some people like me. I couldn't do that as a career or profession for a long time. Had to get away from it. I felt like I was killing the thing I loved, and I was out there working more than I was out there enjoying it. So I had to make a switch, and I came on in '98, right around the time Google started. And that's my background. I'm tracking. And so I started tracking how people were being successful at getting traffic on the web. And I guess I was doing it differently than everybody else. People were writing articles, and people were doing, and the Warrior Forum was the biggest forum at the time for marketers, saying all of these real technical things, data stuff, things in Excel spreadsheets. And I didn't get any of that. I didn't understand that. But I did know how to backtrack. I would be able to see a kill in the wild and go, oh, deer. Oh, and the way the deer's been eaten, it was either a bear or a mountain lion. And then I'd follow the tracks. I could put together a picture at the end of a session, backtracking it from the end to where the mountain lion first saw the deer, where the bear first saw the deer, and how they tracked them, and how long it took them to zero in and then attack, and exactly how the struggle happened, and all of that. So I treated the internet the same way. I went to somebody's site that I thought, wow, I'd really like to have a site that had this much traffic. How did they do it? It's essentially stumbling upon a deer carcass or something in the wild and backtracking their success. So that's exactly what I did. And that led to the first book, which was Power Linking Your Way to 1 Million Hits in 2002. And from that point on, it's been a series of, that sold over 50,000 copies at $47. So I thought, wow, this is a real big success. I could do this for a living. And I just did. I stopped working. My last job, since I had nonprofit experience, was with Big Brothers Big Sisters. And of course, you could understand I wasn't super interested in staying in that position for a long time. I like critters a lot more than I identify with critters a lot more than people. So I did that for a while, and then when power linking took off, I took off. I was done. And no more nonprofit for Jack from 2002 on. Went on to start Content Desk, which became Blog Success, which had lots of different successes. My big day was 750,000 in one 48-hour period for one sale that we did. But always had full membership sites, always training people, much in the same way I did in the wild, how to survive on the web. And not only that, but how to flourish, how to enjoy your time on the web and really prosper in every way, get the traffic that you need, make the money that you need. But I was doing it in a way that was not long-term. It wasn't possible to go long-term the way I was doing it. Everything that I did was push. Everything that I did was a result of a massive amount of effort on my part and a very, very little amount of leverage. The only thing I did with leverage was get joint ventures, and joint ventures were, to me at the time, you mail for me, I'll mail for you. You know, that's not what I have now come to understand what a real joint venture is. And I wasn't using leverage. So I burned out for a little bit, and I sold Blog Success, I sold my software, Curation Soft, and I just floated around for a while until I met someone who had interviewed me the year before, met her again a year later, and then we just started talking about, we were working with Brian Ridgway and doing a project for a mindset workshop, and we really just hit it off. And it's like, man, we really think alike. So I started paying more attention to what DU does, and I started learning about this vortex model. And the reason that we even bring that up on an entrepreneurial authoring webinar is because it's so crucial to everything that we do. And it showed me a way to work very, very smartly and use leverage really, really big time. So I have been doing this for the last year and super mega happy with it. And business has never been better, but most importantly, my life has never been better, because business is now proportionate and the proper proportion to the rest of my life. It supports it. I have an 8-year-old, so I need to be able to do family stuff at the drop of a hat and spend the time that I need to spend, and that's what I really want to do. And the balance now is awesome. The balance is because of what we teach at Directions U, the Vortex system, and the use of leverage. So pay attention, because at the end of this, you're going to be able to do some stuff that you weren't able to do or you might not have been clear about before you got on this webinar, and it's really, really big stuff. If this is the first time you've ever been around me or Gina or the DU team, just do yourself a favor and give it a really good shake. I mean, really, really pay attention, because this is something that I know for a fact. I know every membership site out there. I know every expert out there. I know everyone pretending to be an expert out there. I know them all. I know their programs, and there is nothing that compares to being involved here. And you'll hear that from members of DU. You don't just hear that from us, which is a telltale sign that somebody might not be telling you exactly the truth, because we open it up and let our members talk, and they are the ones who tell our story the best. So just pay attention, and you're going to experience what it's like to be in our vortex right now. And you're in the outer ring of our, slightly inner ring of our vortex, but it's already been at work, and it's already the reason you're here today. So we actually use what we train people to do, and it works like gangbusters. You should be able to hear it in my voice. I'm being extraordinarily genuine, because I don't know any other way to be now, and I don't have to be that other guy that was always just pushing sales and feeling like a car salesman all the time. This is actually how I talk. This is actually how I am all the time now, and I can do that in my business now, thanks completely to what you're a part of what you're going to learn today.
And that's the best part of it. It really is, Jack. You know, Jack and I working together happens so well because we really share a unique perspective on building businesses. The first thing we know is that mindset is everything. Mindset is what allows me to even be alive today. But mindset is also the key to having success in your business. Get the mindset piece right, you can mess up just about everything else in your business and still get huge results. But the opposite is also true. Mess up on the mindset, get everything else done perfectly, and more often than not, you're sitting there empty-handed. So really look at mindset. We also know that it is crucial that you build strategically, which is why no matter what kind of training we're doing, we're out here talking about the Vortex model, the 3-step process of outline your goals and your vision, plan your approach, then implement your plan. Because if you're not doing that second step, planning your approach, you're not building strategically. And the third unique thing about the way that we do business is leverage is the key. We talk about leverage so much that my students actually call me Dr.Gina. Jack, how important is leverage in achieving success in your business?
It's very important in multiple ways, and I've learned to look at it in different ways. I came, just as I came to you with a flat, black and white, one-dimensional idea of what a joint venture is. I'll mail for you if you mail for me. I also came with the same idea of leverage, and now I've learned how to see leverage in a three-dimensional kind of way. It has a lot of different facets to it, and when you understand it in a more than a flat way, more than yeah, I get leverage, I understand what leverage is, give me a big enough lever and I can move the moon and all that kind of stuff. That's not exactly all that everyone has. People have left things out, either because they didn't know everything about leverage or they just didn't want to tell you for some reason. But there is a lot to it, and when it's really permeating every single thing that you do in your business, from one lever in your business is a book. Another one is your ability to pull in search engine traffic, things like that. So, you know, once it's permeated and every single thing on your business is predicated upon the amount of leverage that you're able to apply to it, it gives you that Tim Ferriss kind of feel for how you could actually have a 4-hour work week. It gives you the idea that for the first time it sounds actually possible, not just like a fanciful idea that you could have a business that is run in a certain way, that you will actually have the kind of free time and live that air quotes internet lifestyle that you've always heard about. But then once you get right down to the nuts and bolts, what most people don't tell you about is leverage and exactly how to use it, because it doesn't add up. It's like, wait, I'm going to be, if I do this business plan, I'm going to be working all the time. And I dare say a lot of you guys are doing that right now. You're working constantly, and you might be successful like I was in the 2000s and making a bunch of money and everything, but that you know that you're on a treadmill, you can't keep up that pace. And if there's not leverage involved in that, and a real three-dimensional understanding of leverage and all the ways that it applies, then you're looking for a solution. Probably one of the big reasons that you're here today. You're looking for a solution to get that lifestyle that you've always heard that you can have. And for some of you, it might not just be about the money anymore, and good for you that you're thinking more about your life and how your business fits into your life instead of your life being your business. And that's really great, because you're really, really ready to understand what leverage means and how to apply it to your business.
And everything about this training today involves leverage. The entire system we're sharing with you today involves leverage, which means success starts right here, right now, today. It starts by you answering the questions. What will you achieve? What is your vision for both the next 1 to 3 years and even beyond that? As I've alluded to already, it's a 3-step process. Step 1, outline your goals. And we really mean outline your goals in detail. It is not enough to know you want to make $100,000 a month. You need to know why you want to make $100,000 a month. What are the things that go into that? What are you going to do when you have $100,000 a month? And is $100,000 a month the right number? Or is it $100,000, $3,042.12? The more specific you can be, the easier it will be to achieve it. We're not going to talk today about goals or visions. That's something you're going to need to do once you leave today's training. But please make sure to make yourself a giant note so you can go back and outline your goals. Plan, really look at your vision and figure out what you want to achieve. Because if you take the time to do that, everything else changes. Step 2, plan your approach. We're going to talk a bit today about planning your approach. We're going to share 3 key elements for planning your approach. And part of that is figuring out how your book plays a role, not just in generating traffic or building a list, but in literally growing your business. We're also going to talk a little bit today about the 3rd step, implementing your plan. Most people do this in the reverse order. Most entrepreneurs get started by, okay, we got to go take massive action. Let's go do some stuff. Let's go implement some stuff. Then after they get a little bit of success, maybe they made a sale or 2, then they start to wonder, I wonder what if maybe I could plan this a little bit better. If I could plan it a little bit better, maybe I'm not going to have to work 80 hours a week. And as they sit down to do some planning, then they start to realize, maybe I do need to think about my goals and my vision. If you plan it in the reverse order, starting with let's go take massive action, you are going to have no leverage. You are going to always be putting yourself in that place where you have to work the hardest, the longest, and you're going to have to get the smallest results. Do it in this order, outline your goals, plan your approach, implement your plan, and everything changes. So Jack, can you talk a little bit of an overview about these 3 key ingredients? I've got a delivery that I've got to go grab, or these 2 ingredients. I'll be right back.
All right. Another part of the internet lifestyle. And leverage. If Gina wasn't using me for leverage, she wouldn't be able to pick up that package right now. Okay, so target your market. Who are they? What problems do they know they have? And that's a really, really important one. A lot of times we're out there and we're not really clear on what our audience knows. And a lot of times this will be treated very lightly, like demographics. What are your demographics? And then you give a kind of flat black and white answer to that. And then you go out and you start selling. And then you can't figure out exactly why things aren't going the way you thought that they should be going by now. And that's because you didn't really target your market. When you really target your market, you know who they are, what problems they know they have, and importantly, too, problems they don't know they have. You don't want to sell something to somebody that doesn't even know that that's a solution to a problem that they have, or they really don't even have that problem, so it's not a solution. It makes you feel really bad when you bring a bunch of those kinds of people to a sales letter and none of them convert. And then you start beating yourself up about maybe the product's not good, maybe the thing, and it's not any of that stuff. You're selling to the wrong market. There is a market out there for really great things, and you just have to really make sure that you're targeting properly. So to the degree that they react to your book, your title, the problem that it states that it will solve, all of those things, is how well you've done your targeting, who gets in front of that book, and what kind of research that you've done to that point to make sure that you're getting to the right people. And then when
let's just jump into the target your market a little bit more in detail, shall we, Jack?
Okay.
So in targeting your market, it's not enough to just say, I want customers, is it, Jack?
Nope.
You got to know some specific details, like who are they? Like what problems do they know they have that they're actively looking for solutions to? The more you know things like what is it that they're already buying right now, not just buying, but buying online, the easier it's going to be to get sales to happen. And you want to be as specific as possible in knowing who your audience is. If they don't share a common problem or a common set of problems, it's going to be really tough to get everybody to convert from the same piece of content or the same sales page. We call it the money flow chart. And the money flow chart works like this. If you want to increase sales, it's like an algebraic equation. There are 3 components to it. It's like A plus B plus C equals sales. In this case, A is the targetedness of your audience. Do they share a common problem, a common set of problems? Can they be found in a group, or are they everywhere? The more targeted they are, the better your sales will be. Second, the B in the equation, if you will, is the size of the audience. If you're going after an audience of 10 people, well, even if you got 100% conversions, you're only going to get 10 sales. Probably not going to be very easy to build a 7- or 8-figure business with 10 people in your market. Number one, you're not going to ever get 100% of your market. Number two, you need enough of that market that you can actually realistically reach your goals. If you can go after larger audiences, you're going to also increase your sales. Conversions are the C in the equation. The higher the conversions, the more money you're going to make in sales. But there's a couple of rules that apply. The first rule, and really, really important one, is if you increase the size of the audience, so much so that the targetedness of the audience goes down. Now instead of just going after women, you're going after men and women, for example. Well, you got more people to go after. Because they no longer share a common problem or common set of problems, it actually caused a decrease in your conversion. And it went down so much that it actually caused a decrease in sales, not an increase in sales. But the opposite is also true. If you go after a more targeted audience, so that that audience really is very specific and they have a lot of things in common, although the size of the audience went down, conversions went up so much that it results in an exponential growth in sales. Especially if you're going to include a book in your business, you've got to learn to become extremely specific in figuring out who you're going to target. It starts with that common problem or common set of problems. You need to be able to reach those people in a group. And the last really big important ingredient is your prospects have to know they have the problem that your product solves or that your book solves. I see people so often who are going out and they're talking about this very, very complex problem. And it's a problem that the audience doesn't even know that they have. The audience is stuck on one thing. The entrepreneurs are talking about another. And the two never find one another. If they did by chance find one another, well, the customer doesn't know they want the product because they think they need something else. So you've really got to get inside the head of your prospect to figure out what is it that they know they're looking for. Jack, can you think of an example of this?
Yeah, I mean, people are doing, just think about how you go and search. People are doing searches all the time. They know what their problem is, and they're looking for the best solution, whatever they can determine is the best solution, and they'll do searches based on that. And a real cursory, flat level of dealing with that from our perspective is when people talk about keywords. You know, and we're not really doing that anymore on the internet. We're not doing, you know, we put in keywords, yes, in Google, but mainly what we're doing in Google nowadays is putting in whole phrases. That the entire planet has gotten better at doing search, so that when they come in, they don't just put in insurance. Nobody ever does that anymore. Nobody. Because they know they've used Google enough to know that you're going to get a very non-specific result. You have a very specific problem, and you need to know who is the best provider of flood insurance, just to take it up one notch. Okay, now we're getting more specific. But then again, if you're selling flood insurance to a very specific group of people, or it's targeted to a geographic region, of course, it usually is, then you don't want everybody who searches for flood insurance. You want people who search for flood insurance in Macon County, Georgia, or wherever it is that you are doing business with the product, the exact product that you're selling, so that you can get that traffic and conversion and sales algorithm right, so that you have the right targeted traffic and you have a big enough audience, but it's also converting really well and the sales are working. And so that's how people are searching now. That's how they're looking for the solutions to their problems. They're being very specific. And so if we're not being very specific, if we're shooting for everyone, we can even miss out on the people that we actually want. Yes, I'm scoring really well for flood insurance in search, and I've got people coming through social because I'm talking about generically flood insurance. I'm getting all of this traffic. But I'm only selling to people in this one county in Georgia. You know, to give a geographic example, it could also be the exact same situation with the information or the book that we have. You know, you only can sell to this group of people. It's really going to only work when you have one sales letter saying this book is going to help you with these problems. If those people with those problems and that understanding of that problem aren't on your sales page, but everybody else in the world is on a generic level, they're like, oh, well, yeah, okay, I'm not sure. I'm not buying this. You want people who are like, oh my God, this person is thinking just like me. They're solving the problem exactly the way, you know, I want it solved. They're saying the right things, and you want that kind of reaction to your stuff. your copy, your sales material, your book, your title, your subtitle of your book. And so those are the people that you want, and that's how you basically think about this whole targeting problem or opportunity.
Let's ask the audience. What problem does your audience know that they have that they're actively looking for a solution to right now? If you're unmuted, feel free to just unmute yourself manually and let us know. If you're not unmuted, then go ahead and type it in the questions box. What is the one big problem that your audience knows that they have that they're actively looking for a solution to? Dawn says, problem versus opportunity. Good catch, Jack. Cynthia, go ahead. Hey there, Cynthia. Who else? What problem does your audience know they have that they're actively looking for solutions to? Julianne says, no energy, too tired. Yeah, good point, Julianne. Shirley and Steve, I'm going to re-mute you guys. Cher from Raw Food Energy Benefits says, hers want to know their first steps. Cher, what do you mean by that? Looks like you're self-muted, Cher.
Nobody's mic's working today. These guys are so chatty on bachelor's calls.
I know.
Cynthia's having trouble with her mic, but she has solutions to pain.
Is mine working?
There you go.
It looks like it.
It is.
Hi, this is Dawn.
Hi, Dawn.
Of course, Gina already knows that probably.
And Jack doesn't know that you started out as a graduate apprentice predating the bachelor's program with me.
Right. Yeah, it's group 6 with Carrie.
Absolutely. So what does your audience know they have?
Well, I am working on a new project, so I am just starting over. And I am no longer in pain, Gina.
Oh, Dawn, what great news.
Yes, my life has thrown me in a myriad of directions that have been challenging, but I also learned so much from it. So we'll talk more about that later. But I have been trained as a coach in the meantime since I've spoken to you, and I am deciding on my topic I want to coach around so that it can be specific. I was on a phone call with my friend last night, and she said, everything you go through, you always just get back up. She said, if you could just bottle that, we'd both be rich. I said, you know what? I can bottle that. I can bottle that in a coaching program. So that's kind of where I am. That just happened last night.
What do you have? You absolutely can. Let's see if I can find that other background noise. We do have most of you unmuted. I muted a few of you that had some background noise. So if
my background noise, they just turn the music up so it's like country.
Oh, no, we don't hear yours, Dawn.
Okay, awesome.
So if you are unmuted, feel free to go in and manually mute yourself. As Jack said earlier, open up the control panel and just click on your microphone so that you can mute yourself. That way we'll be able to interact with you guys throughout the training.
It was
so Dawn,
roast timer.
If you're interested in being a coach and you want to bottle yourself so that you can help people to get back up again, you want to make sure that you think about the very specific kinds of problems that people might have. Julianne Blake, who I can't even unmute, she doesn't have a PIN number for me to do that. Julianne has a business called ChooseJoyAnyway.com. And she helps people in chronic pain to overcome chronic pain. Very specific set of problems that come along with that. From a targeting perspective.
Yes, and I remember her.
So from a targeting perspective, at one point, Julianne was even going more specific than that. Okay, what kind of chronic pain? For a while, she was targeting just people with fibromyalgia. You can be as specific as you want, so long as you've got an audience that's large enough. But think about how that changes everything in your business when you get that specific. By getting that specific, then even the title of your book changes, doesn't it?
Yes.
Well, and you have the
Wait,
courage
really?
to title your book the way you would like to title your book. You have the courage because you know what's backing that up. You know in fibromyalgia that it's a big enough audience, but you're also able to target it the way you really want to do everything that you do. You want to target it so that you are talking directly to the people whose problems and needs and things that you understand, so you can reflect back to them what you know is on their mind, what their top things are. You know, what everybody's got, you know, that has chronic pain, but it comes from different areas. Getting that drilled down to an area that you want to specialize in makes everything in your business a lot easier, from the book to everything else.
Boy, does it ever. The outcome of your targeting is what you're really doing is aligning three key elements of targeting. You need to reach the right audience, the audience that shares the common problems, that have money, that hangs out in a group, that knows they have the problem you're talking about. You've got to reach them with the right message. In other words, don't go out talking about all the great solutions you provide. Go out talking about their problem, not the second kind of problem. So you don't know what you don't know problem. You got to go out talking to them about the problems they know they have that they're actively looking for a solution to. And you've got to reach them at the right time. The right time usually means when they have money. But it can even be bigger than that. I often use an example of being in the golf niche. Let's say you're in the golf niche and you happen to have a golf business in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Here's how this alignment works. If you want to go out and reach people who are golfers in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, it could be the right audience. They probably have some golfers up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. The right message is talking to them about things like how to fix your swing, how to get rid of your hook or your slice, that sort of topic. The right time is not the middle of January when they've got 15 feet of snow on the ground. The right time for people in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan is probably in the summer when they do golf up there. Does that mean that you've got the wrong audience? Well, not necessarily. If it's January and you're trying to market your new golf ball to people in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, it's just the wrong time. You can still market it to those people, but you've got to change the time. If it really has to be marketed in January, then maybe you change the audience to someone that does have the right time. Everything you're doing with your targeting is aligning the right market with the right message at the right time. Now, this really becomes essential when you understand what it means to have a traffic vortex and you start working on the plan for your traffic vortex. Dawn, this is going to actually sound a little bit different than what you heard years ago in my program. It's not that it's terribly different. It's I language it different. More importantly, I draw it different. The traffic vortex, when I first came up with this strategy, this system, if you will, used to be drawn as a rectangle. I realized 18 to 20 months ago, nobody understood what I meant until we drew it this way as a circle. There are several components that are on this diagram, and it's really important to understand what those components are. So the first component is the rings of the vortex. The rings of the vortex will go through what they mean, each ring, but essentially think of the rings of the vortex as the places that your message appears. Your message might appear in your coaching program, in a standalone product, in a membership site, in your book, on the front end of your website, on your social media profiles, in webinars, in iTunes. Wherever your message appears, it's in one of the rings of the vortex. The next major component is what looks like petals on this diagram. There are 4 of them. They are what we call pillars of the vortex. They are the topics around which all of your messages are created. So let's look at what the rings are first. The outside ring is your messages on other people's websites. iTunes, Facebook, Google+, LinkedIn, webinars, stages, offline messages. They all belong in the outer ring of your vortex, that beige ring. Just inside of that is the light lavender ring. If you have an online business, that light lavender ring are those messages that people see on your website without opting in, without paying for them. If you've got an offline business, that light lavender ring includes the things that people see on your storefront, as well as the things that people see on your website without opting in, without paying for them. Just inside of that, in the mint green, is either your book or a low-end membership site, or maybe it's actually both. Just inside of that, in the darker purple, are your paid products. Usually, they're standalone products, not continuity programs. In the very center of the vortex is that one thing that makes you the greatest amount of money per customer per year. It could be a done-for-you service, a high-ticket physical product, a coaching program, even a $97 a month membership site could qualify for being in the center of your vortex. Most people, when they're first getting started in their business, they build their vortex from the outside in. If they do that, they go out and dabble. They put messages up all over the place to see if people like what they hear. If they do, then they think about setting up a website. Again, they dabble. People like it. If they start to get some traffic, then they start to think about what they can do from there forward. Usually they do things like a free something, a free audio, a free ebook, a free something, thinking that what they're doing is the mint green ring of the vortex. But that mint green ring cannot be something free. It breaks the system. It must be something people have to pay for. You gain the most leverage in your business by planning in the opposite order. Don't start from the outside. Build a plan from the inside and work your way out. That's the key to getting the maximum leverage to happen. As Jack said earlier, this really is a vortex, a tornado, a whirlpool, a circle that has sucking power. What makes the sucking power happen in your vortex is money. The spinning of your wheel occurs because of money. And if you don't have money throughout the mint green, the dark purple, and the green center, your wheel will not spin. So how do you figure out what the messages are going to be? The key is planning from the inside out. You want to figure out, first and foremost, what is going to be in the center of your vortex. In this case, it's going to be coaching of some sort. You want to sit down, Dawn, and plan out what that curriculum is going to look like. The more detail, the better. In planning out that detail, what you're looking for are the chunks, the topics that are flowing throughout the entire curriculum. You should have multiple pillars, multiple topics. Ideally, you want not fewer than 3 topics, nor more than 7 topics. Fewer than 3 pillars or topics, not enough money in the vortex. More than 7 topics, your wheel spins out of control and collapses. People get overwhelmed. There's too much stuff going on. They can't make sense of it. Somewhere between 3 and 7 topics is the ideal. There is no one number that's a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. No matter what it is you sell in the center of your vortex, done for you, physical, membership, coaching, whatever it is, think about the topics that come together in that product and outline them so that you can see what topics form the pillars of your vortex. When you've got the pillars planned, you can really gain even more leverage by really using the model to help repurpose content. We like to start with either a low-end membership site or even a book and attach to it whatever is in the center of your vortex. So you might have a book that you're putting out there so that in the mint green ring, it covers all 4 pillars of your vortex. Let's call them sections or chapters of your book. You're going to have at least 1 chapter on each one of those topics. When people buy your book, if you have nothing else to sell them, you include as a bonus a complimentary one-on-one strategy session that can sell them whatever the high-end or center of your vortex is. If you do have other products you can sell, well, then you've got to figure out what is this book going to tie to. You could have 1 chapter tied to the product for pillar number 1. Different chapter ties to the product of pillar number 2, etc. By having that book there, you've got so many ways of repurposing the content of your book. Don't you, Jack?
Oh, man, yeah. And leverage.
How does that work?
Leveraging it. Well, first of all, now that you've given me a chance to break in here, I want to make sure that people understand when they're looking at this vortex, this is the top of a tornado. And hopefully everybody understands that. And you should picture it in that we took a photograph of it. It's not currently spinning, but you should always picture these rings as different bands of a weather system spinning in a circle, because that's really what this is. And the other point while you were talking, Gina, I was thinking about was how everybody got here. Your problem awareness, everybody on this call, it was that you have thought about what it would be like to be a best-selling author. And that's what this webinar is about. But we used that title, we used all of that and brought you here, and know that we're not serving to the best of our ability, which is the whole goal behind our business, is to serve to the best of our ability, to give you guys everything that you actually need, including the things that you weren't problem aware of. And so many of you are going, this vortex thing is really cool. I came here because of this best-selling author thing, and this definitely does have to do with that completely, but we're not serving to the best of our ability if we don't show you how the best-selling status that you get for your book happens because of all this other stuff that you hadn't yet considered. So I wanted to make sure that everybody kind of got that angle, because it's like, wait a minute, okay, the book is just that one ring, and they're teaching us about all this other stuff. But this is how bestseller status happens. That spinning, that traffic, that sucking power that this vortex has to get all the attention you need for this book. And then also going beyond that and having that higher end product. Really, really extremely important, because that's going to be your next question anyway. And rather than do what Gina was talking about with the dabbling, where you start with the outer ring, that's what most people do, and you guys are in various stages of going through, different parts of this, but in isolation of, and in some cases oblivious to the idea of the vortex and having all these other things around, all these working components that work together. So I wanted to make sure to clarify that from that angle, and maybe it would help some people understand, the context a little bit better of what we're talking about here. But the book itself, the pieces that you can leverage to repurpose and use in many, many different ways, it's just a tool. It really is a lever. That's what a book is. I think everybody understood that coming onto the call today, that's what a book does. You've watched people all over the place they're coming out with a book. And it, the people who get on TV, who get on interviews on the web, that get on podcasts, that get all this exposure, usually have author after their name. You've noticed that, surely. Everybody has. And the reason that they get that is one of the leverage points that you get from having a book, having this thing, is people just immediately trust you a lot more. You've done something more than what most people do. And so they're willing to pick up the phone if they're a producer at a radio station that needs you for an interview, or a TV show or something online, a radio show or something, podcast. Once you have author after your name, you realize that gets people, that opens doors. It's no small coincidence that most of the people that get interviewed about things have a book. So you can take pieces of the book and leverage it. You can give pieces of it away, and use it in the outer rings, and Once you understand it's a tool and you don't think of it too preciously, like, oh, I'm a book, I'm a published author and everything. And you guys don't do that because you're here talking about self-publishing. We're, of course, not a publishing house like a great big publisher or something like that. You're talking about doing a lot of this yourself. So you're thinking more like a publisher does, because the publishers have to think about their traffic vortex that get people to buy these books that they may have given you a $20,000 advance on in the old-fashioned system of writing and publishing books. So this is what the publisher would be concerned with. And in that case, in those glory days where you could just be Stephen King and just get paid to write, and he just lived in the mint green area, those are not here, and that's not exactly what you guys are interested in doing anyway. You're using them to, a book to build your business. When you don't feel like it's too precious and you've ripped yourself from that old model of I'm a published author and none of this is free, you have to buy the book, then you start to see that there's certain things in your book you can use to leverage more attention and get this vortex spinning faster and more powerfully.
And Jack, I want to give them a concrete example of how the vortex and the book fit together. I asked Cher to unmute. Cher is the founder of rawfoodenergybenefits.com. She helps people learn how to become healthier by eating raw. Cher, you've been working on a book for many years, haven't you?
I have, yes.
And before you learned about the vortex model and started planning your vortex, what was keeping you from finishing your book?
Just that, not having a concrete plan where I was going with it. I knew what I wanted to write about, but I didn't know where I would be going from there and how it would fit in with everything else.
And so you kept writing it and deleting it and writing
Yes.
it and deleting it, didn't you?
I did. Yeah, I did.
So now that you actually have a concrete vortex plan for your business, how has that changed with the book?
Oh, completely. I still haven't finished it because I'm still doing content at the moment, but I know exactly how it's going to look now and why I'm doing it and how where it's going to lead, and how it fits in with the website.
And has it changed the vision for the book at all?
Yeah, yes it has. It makes it bigger. Before it was just a book where I was going, everything was going to be in the book, whereas now the book is my lead to bring people to the website.
And it makes it so much easier to make decisions in your business, whether it's related to the book or anything else, now that you have a vortex, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. It's as if I've cleaned my windows and I can see out.
It's a great way to describe it. And that's why we wanted to share this model with you guys before we got into the specifics of implementing your plan and working on your book. Thank you so much, Cher, for playing with me for a minute.
Okay.
So when it comes to implementing your plan with regard to a book, it starts with writing that book, but really keeping in mind as you do what you've done with your vortex plan, then publishing your book. There are so many different options for publishing, and we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. And then turning your book into a bestseller. A bestseller campaign is really leverage when it comes to books. But again, there are so many options. There's Amazon bestsellers, there's New York Times bestsellers, Wall Street Journal bestsellers. Each one of the bestseller programs has a different set of requirements that you need to undertake. Oh my gosh, it can be so overwhelming. We're going to talk today about what will help you gain the maximum leverage if you do decide to do a bestseller campaign, and how does that really affect the business overall. One of the best systems I've ever seen for writing your book that really truly can allow you to write a book in a weekend is a system put out by a guy by the name of Lance Decker. Lance Decker is a project management specialist. What the heck does project management have to do with writing a book? Truly everything. As a project management specialist, Lance has created a process he calls an action planning strategy or an action planning system. And it's what he uses to plan any project, including a book. What I love about it is how easy it is to implement. It involves getting 2 different kinds of Post-it notes, preferably 2 different colors. The first thing you want to do once you've figured out what your vortex looks like is sit down with yellow Post-it notes and outline the chapter headings for each book, for each chapter of your book. So if you know you've got 4 pillars to your vortex, share how many pillars do you have? Probably has to unmute again.
6, I think now.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
So if you've got 6 pillars to your vortex, you can't just have 6 chapters in a book, can you, Jack?
Well, it'd be an interesting book, but it's not typical.
Yeah. What about 12 chapters?
Sounds more like a book.
Yeah. So you're going to outline 2 chapters for each pillar's topics. So Cher's going to have 2 chapters on pillar number 1, 2 chapters on pillar number 2, etc. Cher, for you to sit down and think about those 2 chapters per pillar, you could do that in your sleep, couldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you go and get either a wall or a big whiteboard that you can put your Post-it notes on, or even still, go get yourself some manila envelopes, get 6 of them, 1 for each pillar of your vortex, and put your yellow Post-it notes with your chapter titles on either your whiteboard, your wall, or your manila envelopes. What I like about the Post-it notes is they can be reorganized and rearranged with ease. When you've got all your chapter titles lined up, now you're going to go in with some blue Post-it notes, and you're going to start at chapter number 1. And you're going to start writing down on a separate Post-it note the sub-headlines that go within chapter number 1. Don't worry about the order right now, just get them all down on paper. Share, if you know your 2 chapters for pillar number 1, how easy would it be to go and put all of the sub-elements for each chapter on Post-it notes? Would that be pretty easy?
Yeah, definitely.
So
I
get
have mine
all of
on
them. Say that again?
I have mine on a big blackboard at the moment.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Are they on Post-it notes or just written on the blackboard?
No, they're in chalk on the blackboard at the minute, but I like the Post-it notes.
Try putting it on the Post-it notes because it's going to help you with the next piece of this. When you've got all of your sub-headlines or subtopics done, now you're going to start organizing them a little bit. Either on your chalkboard, your whiteboard, your envelopes, whatever you're going to do, you're going to group them together so that Chapter 1 and all of its sub-headlines are in one place, Chapter 2 and its sub-headlines are in another, etc. And now you can start reorganizing your blue Post-it note to put some semblance of order to it. You could even go and get a 3rd color of Post-it notes, let's call it pink, and put sub-headlines to the sub-headlines, if you will. I like to think of them as paragraph topics, and really get super detailed in this outline. Sure, if you've got this kind of an outline, how much easier would it make it to actually write the book?
Oh, much easier. This is what I was struggling with in the beginning. Again, I knew what I wanted to say, but I didn't know. I was struggling with mapping it out, what to put where, what leads to what. So yeah, this is great.
And I would even go and get some green Post-it notes. You'll see why green in a minute. And next to my chapter headlines, my green Post-it note would tell me exactly what product each chapter is going to tie to. That might be a call to action to a low-end membership site that has content related to Chapter 1's pillar. Then the same membership site has content related to Chapter 2's pillar. So you change the call to action but promote the same product. In Cher's case, she has a low-end membership site. It's $19.95 a month. It covers all 6 topics of her vortex, 6 pillars of her vortex. So every chapter of the book will promote her low-end membership site, but it will talk about it in a different way, so that the chapters related to Pillar 1's topic focus on the benefits in Pillar number 1. The chapters related to Pillar number 2's topic focus on the details and benefits of Pillar number 2. But it's all the same product that you're tying it to, isn't it, Jen?
Yes.
One of the best things you can do with your book is to include a bonus with it, say a 30-day trial of a $19.95 a month membership site. It makes it so much easier to tie both pieces together. And now you're not just writing a book, you're really building your business, aren't you, Jack?
Yeah, I'm hoping that everybody's looking at this and going and thinking about those calls to action and how they tie back to that thing that we talked about for so long in the first part and did such a big setup to get to this point. Now you know why. Because your book, we're not just interested in you being a best-selling author. There's no money in being a best-selling author. Nothing that really gets you what you all certainly have as goals for your financial future. That by itself doesn't do a thing for you. But now can you see how the whole thing is designed around a vortex and pillars and what you talk about? And now you should be thinking, this is really coming together nicely. This is now making sense to me. And now your book, being a bestseller, is actually a giant engine that drives money to your funnel, drives people deeper into your funnel, so you're actually now making money, where all the other best sellers that are out there, well, I mean, they may or may not have figured out how to tie that to actual money, but best-selling status on its own, not necessarily going to get you money. This now really is like an engine. It's just it's a powerful thing.
It really is. Changes everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's awesome.
You really, truly can write your book in a weekend using this system. And if you don't want to write it in just one weekend, well, leave yourself some time every day to work on a little more of it. If you've got such a detailed outline, you can tackle whole chapters at a time, because it's literally written itself through your outline. But the minute you start to actually write the detail of the book, it's time to start thinking about what you're going to do with publishing your book. Today, things are very different than they were before the power of the Internet. Back in the 90s and the 80s and the 70s, we didn't see a lot of self-published authors turning their books into bestsellers. More often than not, bestsellers on New York Times or Wall Street Journal, they were books that had big publishing houses. And to get your book accepted by a publishing house can take years and years and years of effort. Today, we've got some elegant options for becoming a self-published author. And it is way easier to be a self-published author and get a bestseller campaign than it ever was before. One of my favorite ways of being a self-published author is by using a tool called CreateSpace.com. CreateSpace is actually owned by the world's largest bookstore. Jack, what's the world's largest bookstore?
Amazon.
Of course. CreateSpace is a solution to a big problem on Amazon's part. As self-publishing became more of a norm than the exception, Amazon started having issues with self-published authors. Amazon prides itself on being able to deliver very, very quickly. And with self-published authors, they didn't always have their books ready to go to ship. And so Amazon needed ways of ensuring that self-published authors' books were available for shipping within 48 hours. So they actually started requiring anyone who's self-published to warehouse large quantities of books in order to even be able to submit their books to Amazon. Well, that's great if you've got $30,000 or $40,000 to tie up in inventory and you've got a place to warehouse them other than your garage or your basement. But if you don't, what the heck do you do then? That's when CreateSpace became a reality. CreateSpace is completely and totally free, and it gives us as self-published authors a way to publish our own books in a way that Amazon controls the printing for, and therefore you don't have to warehouse even one book. When you use CreateSpace, CreateSpace handles all of the printing on an order-by-order basis. It is so incredible and oh so easy. What I love about CreateSpace is there are so many benefits with it. Number one, they have a ton of tools that can help you to publish faster, to even market your book better. They have ways of getting proofs to you, so you actually get to see your book in print before you approve it for inclusion on Amazon. That's pretty nifty. Jack, what was it like when you first saw your book in print?
It's incredible. I mean, if you've ever listened to anybody who finally got their book published and they're in an interview and anybody asks that question, it's a really big question because that feeling's going to be very important to you guys, and that it feels like, well, it's just utter accomplishment. Like it's a final piece that you can say, in my business, I've gotten this thing done. This is the package. It's got a bow on it. I'm done. Now it's time to market and everything. There's a lot of things left to do, but my book is done, and it's awesome. It's something, of course, we're having a workshop all about it. There's a lot of things. It's not just sit down and write a book, or you guys wouldn't even be here. You wouldn't even be, it's things you've got to work out, and it is a process. It's lengthy. It doesn't have to be as lengthy as people have made it out before, but there's a lot involved in it, and the sense of accomplishment is like no other, just like no other. I mean, you think about just when you were growing up and how your family reacted to people who were authors, who were consumers of lots and lots of books and all that kind of stuff, and then to have one in the family. Just thinking of it from that angle, there's now a published author in the family, or you have published authors in the family, and now you're also one of those. And you have assigned meaning to that, whatever meaning you've assigned to that. Picture it all culminating in that delivery of your book, done, printed. It's your thing in your hands, not for the first time in your life somebody else's book. It's yours.
Here's a great story. When I first learned about CreateSpace, it was because of one of my friends who has a 12-year-old daughter. His daughter wrote a book called 21 Ways for Kids to Make Money. She went to CreateSpace. Her dad didn't even know that she was doing it. She went to CreateSpace. She opened up her free account. She published her 21 Ways for Kids to Make Money book on CreateSpace, got it onto Amazon, and then showed it to her dad. Well, she did it the week before Father's Day 2 or 3 years ago. So like this week, 2 or 3 years ago. Dad is like oohing and eyeing over it, going, I can't believe you did this, when the phone rings. It's a local news channel calling. He's like, you want to talk to me? Oh my goodness, this is amazing. And they're like, oh no, we want to talk to his daughter. They actually brought her in for an interview on the news that was done on Father's Day to talk about her new book called 21 Ways for Kids to Make Money. And within 7 days, she was an Amazon #1 best-selling author at the age of 12 because of CreateSpace.
I hadn't heard that story.
Now you understand why I love CreateSpace. Keith Doherty, Jack, if you know who he is, it's his daughter.
Oh, okay.
Really, really great story. CreateSpace does a lot to help us as authors gain leverage. Leverage in this case comes from things like when you're on CreateSpace, not only does your book appear on Amazon here in the States, but it also appears on Amazon in Europe. CreateSpace can even help you get your book on regular bookshelves offline here in the States and in Europe. More leverage comes in from repurposing. Repurposing in this case means you use CreateSpace to publish your print book, and then you go and reuse your book and publish an ebook for Kindle. It can do that as well. And it's all completely and totally free. It makes it super, super easy to set everything up. You tell it the name of your project, what kind of format you want. Jack, how many different ways can you repurpose the content of your book? How many creative formats can you publish it in?
Well, you've got several choices here. I mean, the other ones that come to mind are, you know, slide share type applications, and I mean, it's just pretty much endless. Every mode that exists, someone has figured out a really elegant and nice way to convert a book into that medium.
So put that book in audio and video and whatever, a membership site, break it apart. It's content of your membership site. Repurpose, 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 repurpose. Get maximum leverage when you do.
The next step is reading your book aloud and recording it.
Right? Yeah, exactly. If you're using CreateSpace, you can use the little wizard that they've got and get help step by step. They walk you through every single step of it. There isn't one step that gets left out. You can have that book be written just by you. You can even have other people get involved. And this is, again, major leverage. When Jack and I do things, we like to get faculty involved. Jack, if we got faculty involved in a book project, what would that look like?
Well, just a mass contributor type book project. So everybody would be in charge of a certain section of the book, chapter or chapters, but probably a chapter per person, and or however it's laid out. If it's 4 people, then you know you've basically got responsibility for a quarter of the book, or however you want to lay it out. But you're not held back in that here at CreateSpace. So whatever you end up doing, however you organize it, it's handled here just fine.
And while we're looking at the wizard from CreateSpace, know that this applies no matter what publishing model you choose to use. Whether you're using CreateSpace, whether you've got a printer that you want to get your books done through and you're going to do the old-fashioned warehouse it, whether you're going to go and find a publisher. We'll talk in a few minutes about why having a publisher is a good idea and how that can affect your book. But these things apply no matter what way you choose to do your book. Getting other people involved in your book as co-authors is a really big deal. When your book is done and it's out there and it's time to market it, if you do it yourself, you're on the hook for all the marketing. If you get co-authors involved, have co-authors that can write chapters for each topic, each pillar of your vortex, now you've got a whole team present to help you with your marketing. You talk about really major leverage. That's really, really major leverage for you. And by getting them all together in your book, now you can go to those same people and get them involved in everything else you do. Your coaching program, your standalone products, events you do. Get them to really become a strategic alliance that's working together on an ongoing basis. If you've been watching as Directions University has been relaunched, that's exactly what we're doing. We're up to 23 faculty members now. That means to us that we have 23 co-authors if we want to write a book. We have a strategic alliance of 23 people who all have their own lists, their own websites, their own traffic, their own resources to make Directions U even more successful. How awesome would it be to have that for your business, right? ISBN numbers, Jack. What the heck is an ISBN number and why is it important?
Every book's got one. So, and it's a unique identifier. I can't remember what it stands for. International something.
Serial book number, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. It's basically a serial number for your book, and it's unique. It's just like the VIN number of your car or anything else, and everything in the book world is organized by ISBN.
And without one, your book cannot appear on Amazon. It cannot be on bookstores. If you're self-publishing through
Gina, John.
other, yes, John.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that that each publisher has its own ISBN number for your book. Now with Kindle, you don't need one because they assign a number to it, and that's the only way it's sold. But if you want to sell your book through someone besides CreateSpace, you're going to need your own ISBN number as the publisher, or you just let the publisher provide the ISBN number. But it's by publisher.
Actually, that's only in part true. So there are two ways to get an ISBN number with CreateSpace. The first is a free CreateSpace assigned ISBN number. If you choose that and then you decide to have your book published by a different publisher later, then you will absolutely positively have to get a different ISBN number later. However, for $10 one time, you can get a custom ISBN number that identifies you as the publisher, and then it is portable, and should you choose to take it to another publisher, your custom ISBN number can come with you, John. If you weren't in CreateSpace, if you were going out and needed to buy an ISBN number because you're going to use a local printing service, the ISBN numbers usually run around 50 bucks. So using CreateSpace just saved you 40 bucks on your ISBN number right there, which is also great.
It was only like 5 minutes ago, it seems, that getting an ISBN number, everything about publishing was prohibitive, cost and everything. An ISBN number was, the last price that I remember that was outrageous was like 250 bucks. But it was way higher than that just before that.
When it was that high, Jack, not only was it an expensive thing, it was also something you had to stand in line for.
Right.
There are only a finite number of ISBN numbers. And back then, they got sold out very sparingly. I remember a day where you could actually have to wait 3 to 6 months to get an ISBN number. And if you wanted your book to go out and get printed and get on the shelves before that, they weren't going onto anybody's shelves without it, so you were kind of screwed.
That's back when everything was controlled by the publishing cartel. You know, they controlled it for a reason. They wanted everybody to go through, they wanted to force everybody to go through a publishing house, which was presently probably rejecting your manuscript. You know, so you were just like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah. One
Now
of the biggest reasons that people choose to use publishers is because the publisher handles things like the cover, the formatting of the manuscript, etc. If you're choosing to use CreateSpace, you're going to need a print-ready file. It can be PDF, doc, it can be any number of formats, but you're going to need to go in and upload your file into CreateSpace. The cool part is they give you templates. Depending upon the size you want for your book, they have Word templates for all the different sizes. What I've recently found out is that the templates that CreateSpace provides, they work for almost any printer printing your book. So you can just go into CreateSpace, go grab their templates, and get your book into the print-ready format no matter what service you're getting your book printed to, through CreateSpace or something else. When we talk in our entrepreneurial authoring workshop on the 26th and 27th of June, we're even going to be showing all of you how you can get your book formatted according to these templates for $5. How awesome would that be, Jack?
Awesome.
Your cover. Your cover is critical to the eventual success of your book. Jack, can you talk a little bit about covers? Why are they so important?
Well, if you guys have done searches on Amazon for information and you're looking for books on topics, different things, there are good covers and there are bad covers. That's very subjective, but it's also sort of scientific. We took the subjective part of a good cover versus bad cover, and I could like one that Gina doesn't like. But if somebody's really paying attention to their cover design, they will come up with something that's likely to appeal to both Gina and me and everybody else to a very, very high degree. And so the readability of it, the image that's used on it, you know, there are some that people just nailed by accident, and it's like, man, that's an awesome cover. And you really start paying more attention to it purposefully when you're thinking about designing your own cover or you have your own book and it's time to do that. You start really picking those things apart. Why is that so nice? So, you know, there's a little bit of a science to it as far as the medium in which people interact with your stuff. You need to know how big the covers are, the little tiny images on Amazon, and that's not like going through Barnes & Noble and picking a book off a shelf and assessing the value by the book's cover. You can't do it that way on Amazon, so we've had to design things a little bit differently. The one on the right there, and at the end of your life, it's designed for the new world that we live in. It's a giant font, and we used to have books that had just tiny, like the one down at the bottom. It's kind of an amalgam between the two. It does have the tiny font for people who pick it up at Barnes & Noble, but it's also got a really good big graphic with the title that can be seen in this format, which is a very small internet graphic. And then you got to think all the way down to phone level. So those graphics get even smaller when somebody's on a smartphone, which most people are now when they surf the internet. So you got to think about all kinds of things like that. But generally, for today's purposes, bigger is better, and less information on the cover is better, and a really, really outstanding graphic. As you understand how people scroll through information on the web, you should be able to understand how that affects the way that you design your cover and the way that people who really know what they're doing design theirs.
Your cover really is a big part of your branding. It's usually the first thing that people see about your business. If we look at Heaven is for Real for kids, notice that it's a font that makes it look like it's written by a kid. Even the whole thing down here at the bottom with the author's name, it looks like it's written by a kid. If you know the story of Heaven is for Real, it's a story about a boy. It's his story. So how great that they actually set this up to make it look like it was written by a kid. It was. The imagery is a big deal with it when it comes to branding as well. If we look at Grain Brain by Dr. Perlmutter down in the bottom in the middle, notice that what shows up around Grain Brain, it's the outline of a brain. That little simple imagery has so much significance. Dr. Perlmutter happens to be one of my own physicians. I've actually been seen by Dr. Perlmutter. He's a guy who's here in Naples, Florida. His book has been such a world-renowned success story in the last 8 months. He now has a 3-hour special on PBS. He's been gone out of Naples now for 6 straight months because he's been on speaking engagements, one after another, after another, after another. And he was just an ordinary neurologist until Grain Brain came out. It's his book that's done that. His practice is actually expected to be closed until sometime next year because of the success of Grain Brain. Your cover is really important to that. My dad asks, where can you go for a science check on the cover of your book? In other words, to really make sure that it's going to do what it needs to do. Again, I love CreateSpace. If you have a publisher, your publisher usually does that for you. If you're using CreateSpace, they have a wizard that makes it super easy to go in and design the cover of your book. You can upload a ready image of your front, back, and spine, or you can actually use their wizard to play around with it. Now, that's not going to give you the check that Bobby Joe is asking for. But what you can do is once your book is completely done and it's templated, it's uploaded, your cover's been designed no matter how you did it, for I think it's around $50, you can actually pay CreateSpace to get someone to go through it and make sure that it is what it needs to be. Their editors and graphics people are really, really good at being able to provide advice to authors so that you can get your book right before you actually put it out to the world, which is really an awesome service and such a low price point. No matter how you're printing your book, you want to make sure that you have true international distribution. Again, this goes back to the idea of your vortex. If the center of your vortex is something that's a physical product or a done-for-you product that is sold in only a narrow geographic area, then international distribution is probably not that important for your business. But if your center of your vortex is anything else, you want to make sure that you're reaching a global audience, not a local audience. You know, people don't realize the internet is not just a local tool. It's really a global tool. And it's actually easier, not harder, to reach a worldwide audience than it is to reach a local audience. So your book is a big part of that. That means that even in writing your book, as well as in designing your cover, you've got to be thinking in terms of a global audience, don't you, Jack?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the same thing I teach my local clients. There is no local and online anymore. That barrier has been totally and utterly destroyed. There are things we just say now that are universally true. So universally is also has to apply to your audience.
Yeah. Like Dr. Perlmutter, you would think that because his main business is being a neurologist, that he would want to reach people here in Naples, Florida. I actually talked to his office about a month ago. I was trying to line him up for the Breakthrough Directions radio show. And it turns out that because of the success of Grain Brain, the appointments they're booking for next year are actually not people here in Naples, Florida. People are now coming from around the world to book appointments with him here in Naples, Florida. He is single-handedly bringing thousands of people to Naples to treat with him as a physician. Jack, I know you've got a lot of local clients. How awesome would it be for them to actually bring people in from outside their area to do business with them?
It's one of the first things they start talking about once they realize that they set themselves up to be geographically challenged, and they understood that in the beginning. I have a local business, but when they start to explore these things, they're like, "Whoa, this is turning into something more than I ever dreamt before." Because I'm not just bound by my location, you know. And a lot of them have started realizing that in the last decade with the ability to just ship and be on the internet and sell worldwide. But it's even more profound than that. In the way that we're talking about it now, it's way more profound than just getting on the internet and shipping worldwide.
It really is. If you're doing anything with a publisher other than CreateSpace, make sure that your publisher has international distribution. Not all publishers do. These days, there's a big trend toward what are called vanity press publishers. Many vanity press publishers out there today, including Directions University. This month, Directions University is opening the doors to DU Press. DU Press is a true publisher. We publish in print, digital, for Kindle and PDF, as well as audio. When you publish with us, we don't just distribute your books here in the U.S. or just in North America. We have true international distribution in 19 different countries. We have a network of people we work with around the world to help ensure that our authors' books are getting onto bookstore shelves all over the world, that our authors' books are showing up on websites that exist all over the world, not just on Amazon. No matter what publisher you use, make sure that that is likely to happen. oftentimes done properly, the larger chunk of your target market is outside the U.S., not inside the U.S. So if you're doing things with your book that reach people only here in the U.S., well, you're usually missing out on something like 75 to 90% of your audience because they don't live here in the U.S. Don't do that to your business. That's major, major leverage right from the start. Ask the question of your publisher if you don't know. And if they tell you no, they only do North America or only do the U.S., go find another publisher right away.
Or they only do English?
Oh, yeah, that's the other biggie. We also publish our books in 9 different languages right from the start. Books are not just being read in English, are they, Jeff?
Nope.
I'm looking for that echo. Shelby, if you just unmuted someone, if you could remute them, that would be outstanding. Thank you. One more big piece of leverage comes from not just having your book in online bookstores, not just having your book in offline bookstores, but libraries. Jack, why are libraries such a big deal?
I don't know, really, anymore, but they are. I hear of people visiting them, and it's almost like a museum, like why somebody would go to a museum, but I hear they're important still.
They really are. In fact, if I think about my parents, my folks go to the library, I don't know, almost once a week, I think. They have for many, 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 many years. When you're taking the time to write your book, don't expect that it's the book itself, the sales of the book, that are going to make you the money. Jack, why is that? Aren't you supposed to make all your money from your book?
No, money, whatever you make from selling your book is chicken feed, and it doesn't matter if it's $1 million. That $1 million should go into more expansion of your business. And if somebody's coming in and checking something out in a library, well, the library kind of bought it. Maybe there's kind of a situation where you might make a penny or two off of distribution throughout all the libraries, but mainly what's there is that all the people checking it out are going through your funnel system. Remember, it's not just a book. It's not just an interesting little tale. This is not a work of fiction. It's showing off your expertise, and then it's leading to the other pillars of your vortex and into the center of your vortex where you actually make money. It's become now a very crucial tool in getting it in the hands of as many people as possible, regardless of whether you make money in doing so or not. In that part of the process, it's irrelevant whether or not you make money at that point. And I'll tell you, if you do make $1 million off of the gross sales of your book, then behind that $1 million should be 10, 20, 30 million dollars, because the engine of your vortex and your business doesn't even kick in to a significant level until after they've read the book, become super inspired by what you've written, and take the next step. And then we talked earlier about what those next steps are. At the end of every chapter, at the end of the book, you're doing calls to action. And it's hard to read a book these days and not find somebody that's already become savvy to that. That, you know, go to my website, go to my this, check this out. Here's another free guide that goes along with the book. Here's a call to action, call to action, call to action. So if you could find a way to finance the distribution of your book throughout the world in libraries and everything else, that's essentially what you're doing. The book sales themselves take care of that financing of getting global distribution of a tool that brings people into your vortex in such a powerful way.
And that's really why I love libraries so much. You're pretty much guaranteed if your book's going to be on library shelves, it's not going to be read once. It's going to be read by a lot of people. And all those people coming into your vortex, boy, oh boy, that's major leverage. When you can take one action, sell one copy of the book, and potentially reach thousands of people, that's leverage. That's exactly what it means. When you're using CreateSpace, they automatically help you get into libraries and academic institutions. The only reason it says not eligible on this book is because I hadn't uploaded my book yet. I was just doing this to demo it for you. Make sure if you're working through any publisher that they not only help you with bookstores online and off, but that they help you with libraries as well. And obviously I wouldn't even say that unless DU Press does do all of it, and we do. Remember also ebooks. Oh, Jack, how many millions of dollars are made on ebooks every year? Lots. I should have looked up that stat before this call, and I forgot to.
The big Kindle gold rush, and it's still going on. It kind of got flooded with people. They made it so easy that a lot of junk also got into the Kindle marketplace. But Amazon has such an amazing algorithm for determining what you should see when you come in as a customer, based on real feedback from real Amazon customers, the number of sales and all of that, that generally you are immune to seeing most of the stuff that's flooded the Kindle market. But they made it so easy. The thing is, when you are a legitimate expert with something to say, with a legitimate book that people really want and find to be awesome once they read it, it's so easy for you that even people that have no business being on Kindle have been getting in droves, with books that find their way out of your way before you ever are burdened with that. But it's good news for you guys, because you do have something to say. You do have something of value to bring to your market, and that problem came up over the last few years is an indication of just how easy it is to get in there and also be found on Amazon. Amazon works really hard for you to be found. So it's not just, well, I'm listed in this giant directory of books and it's never, there's some really easy things that you can do that we'll discuss in the workshop that you can to draw attention to yourself in Amazon. And it's only just understanding how Amazon's algorithm for what books come up when searches are done. Once you understand how Amazon wants to present material to people, you set your book up to be presented in that way, and you have Amazon on your side to promote your book, which is, the biggest bookstore in the world. That's a good friend to have. They want to make as many sales as you do.
The other thing we're going to talk about in that workshop is Kindle's role in making your book into a bestseller. It is so much easier to hit Amazon #1 bestseller status with a Kindle book than it is with a print book, simply because there's so much less competition on Kindle than there is in print. If you want to make sure that your book's going to get New York Times bestseller, well, get it to be an Amazon #1 bestseller first, then repeat it. It adds to the credibility. So Kindle is a big, big deal for so many different reasons. The other big difference between having a book on Kindle and having a print book is the ease at which people can click on your link.
Mm-hmm.
It is a known fact that Kindle books produce way, way, way more back-end sales than print books, just because people can touch the link and go right to it. Where with a print book, they've got to remember to write it down, and then the next time they're near a computer or an iPad or something, then they've got to go and actually type it in. And what happens if they transpose a letter? Pain in the butt. Doesn't produce nearly the volume of quote-unquote leads that your Kindle book will. And my dad pointed out for us, he loves Kindle because you can make the fonts bigger and smaller. Makes it easier for his tired eyes to read it. Especially if you're going after an older audience, make sure that you're putting your books in Kindle so that it can really serve them, so that they can make it bigger when they need it to be. Really, really great thing to do. And marketing your book is probably 80% of the job of being an author. So often we hear authors who are slaving over the writing of their book as if it were the whole thing. It's not. Writing the book is maybe 5 to 10% of the work. Another huge chunk of the work is planning. Spend a good amount of time planning, say 20% to 25% of the total book effort planning, 5%, 10% tops writing, and the rest of it is marketing your book. If all you're doing is publishing your book, no matter what mechanism you use, a publishing house, create space, whatever, how often are people going to find that book, Jack?
Say the question again. I'm sorry. I was writing to the audience.
If all you're doing is publishing your book, whether it's your create space,
Oh, and you just leave it?
house,
Oh, yeah, it's
and
not
that's
going anywhere. Yeah, you get
think
lost in the
anybody's
noise.
ever going to buy it?
No,
Going to get thousands of sales?
no. I mean, you'll get a couple accidental sales, but you have to be proactive. Again, you're the publisher, so you're going to be picking up the role here that the publisher would normally be picking up, which is marketing. So, you know, then once everything's done, you've got to go out and do that legwork. But if you've done it, planning it from a vortex level, you've already got a lot of these leverage points in play. And we talked about some of them already. If you have co-authors, and then you're not marketing alone. But then you got to go start using these tools, and there's tons and tons of tools out there to get attention. A lot of people do just put their book up, and they'll use one or two of these tools, and they might even get the bestseller status doing that. But somebody like Gary Vaynerchuk, he'll do all kinds of crazy stuff. He's done marathon calls where he gives away really cool stuff on Google Hangouts. Last fall he did that for Jab, Jab, Right Hook, his latest book, and if you bought in groups, he was selling like 10, even up to 50 books in a chunk. If you guys buy 50 books, these are like coaches and consultants that could use the books as marketing materials and give out to their students, things like that. If you guys buy 50 books, I'm going to give you this consulting, I'm going to give you this and that, whatever. He did a call that probably lasted about 3 hours, and people stayed on. They wanted to talk to him. He was giving them access to him. He was chatting with everyone and anyone that came on the call, and you know, his friends were there, and people who were just fans of his, and all of that. It was a hugely attended thing, and he just stayed there and marathoned his way through about 1,500 to 2,000 book sales. But not only that, he leveraged all of that into those books were all being given away in promotions that we're going to mention his name and his book, big giant promotions from people with huge lists and everything else. So he was leveraging, he was doing all of that. I've seen people do. I mean, he really gets into that part of it because he understands that his next book and his $10 million book deal that he got for 10 books, and this is like only his 4th, I think, so he's got 6 books to go. It gets easier and easier and easier as you go along, and he knows that. He understands that. He's leveraging what he's doing now to the future, and every single book release gets easier and better, which leads to his next book deal probably being $20 million instead of just a measly 10 for writing a book every year for 10 years. So, there are all kinds of ways to do it. Whatever these guys recommend in their own system, like you see here on this slide, is the most cursory and most utterly basic way to do it that most people are going to do. And I hate going on trails that have been overly trod upon. I love going out there and doing what these guys aren't doing. So if everybody hits this page, certainly do these things, but then know that everybody else hit this page, and everybody, if they're recommending, everybody goes to the indie review and all that kind of stuff, that everybody's going there. That's the least amount that most people who are halfway motivated would do. Then you start thinking about all the really cool ways. And if you want to know cool ways to market anything, of course you need to stay or get involved with DU, because that's what we do. That's all we talk about all the time next to mindset.
And, so many authors think that when they go and get a traditional publisher or even a vanity press, that as an author that ensures them their success because the publisher is going to do all the marketing. It's a big misnomer, guys. When you have a publisher, most publishers are going to help make sure that that book gets onto the bookstore shelves, but that's where it stops. The publisher cannot do the work that you as the author need to do to go out and promote the book, to get people into the bookstores, getting them wanting to buy your book. Whether you do that online, whether you do that offline through book tours and speaking engagements and going from one city to the next with book signings, there's so many ways to do it. You as an author need to do that if you want to get to the place where your book is becoming a bestseller. Jack, I know you're a best-selling author. How much fun did you have doing your bestseller campaign?
It's awesome. People were wanting to celebrate with you. That's another feeling that I don't think a lot of people would ever, hear about. But from my perspective, it was interesting that people wanted to join in with your, people who wanted to joint venture, who wanted to help out in ways that they kind of brought it up. And it wasn't always me going, hey, I got this book and I need you to promote it. There are people who recognize what it means to get a book done and to have something like that out there. And in that recognition, the first thing that a lot of people want to do, because I hang out with people that want to be of service, that are really understand that I'm going to be there the next time for them, and I don't even have to ask them for things. And I love people like that. I surround myself with people like that. I went out and sought relationships with people like that, and then and people just offered it up. What can I do to help you move more copies of your book, get it out in the hands of more people? And that was really awesome. And typically in this situation, a lot of people would just tell you all of those things that you should do. You've got to go out and push it. And really, if everything is set up right in your business, in your vortex plan, there's a lot of pulling there too. It's just, hey, everybody, I got my book done, and a bunch of them saying, what can I do to help? That's awesome. Congratulations. Because a lot of the people that I've built relationships with, I call friends. Now, these friends have 500,000 followers on Google+, so they're pretty awesome friends when it comes to marketing. But it's not really that big a deal if you're thinking holistically about your business rather than, all right, I got to do this book thing because a book is a big thing I've heard and I got to do that. Well, at the end of that, you don't want to get stuck with a really nice book with an awesome message, a huge sense of accomplishment, and nobody wanting to share in that with you in a way that gets more copies of your book out there, sold and in more hands. That isn't like pulling teeth, like, oh, like going to somebody in your family about a multi-level marketing thing. You don't want to feel like that about your book. So you got to make sure when you get to this stage that you're starting today, right now, thinking about what it's going to be like when that book is done and who's going to be there for you, who's going to be there waiting to help you. And that will happen to the degree that you get really good at networking with people and the kinds of people that you might have been afraid to approach. Now in your mind you should see your book cover right in front of you. You should see that this is going to happen. You're going to be a published author, and you need to start taking up that attitude. And you need to start expecting that by the end of this stage where the book is ready to go and it's time to promote, that you're going to have friends at the end of that tunnel. You're going to have friends waiting for you to do that. Now, some people would call them JV partners. I don't do that anymore. I say friends. I say people who are my associates at the very least, that who are ready and willing to do whatever, because they know that I'm ready and willing to do whatever for them. And so knowing that, and then that's just a really awesome thing to greet you at the end of this process with this major accomplishment. And it doesn't tarnish it when you get to the end and go, wow, crap, I have this book, and all I have ahead of me are these simple things that they recommend at CreateSpace that everybody does. I'll do all that stuff, but I'll immediately get out to my friends and say, guys, it's done. Here we go. Here's how you can help. Or some of them are just coming in and saying, what can I do? I did all that. Can I do some more? That's so awesome to feel that support at the end of this journey of getting this thing done. You don't want anything to tarnish that.
What would it be like to have you, a best-selling author, with your picture on the cover of your book? That really is a realistic possibility. Not next year, not the year after, or 5 years from now. It's possible yet this year. And to help make it super easy for you, we are holding a 1.5-day intensive training workshop on June 26th and 27th. That's a Thursday and a Friday. We go from noon till 6 on Thursday. We go from 9 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. on Friday. And then we get back together again 2 weeks later on Friday, July 11th, again from noon till 3 this time, to walk you through step by step every single part of building your book, writing your book, tying it to your business, publishing your book, running your bestseller campaign, and really using your book to gain maximum leverage, not for the book, but for your entire business. Jack, you and I are both so excited about this workshop. I think we're more excited about it than any of the other workshops we've ever done, aren't we?
Yeah, because I think it's non-theoretical. There's not a lot of theory involved in this. Like when we do the joint venture workshop, there's some points in that people have to really think a little bit harder about how to wrap their minds around some of the things that we talk about in that and some other workshops. They're more than willing to do that, and they show up in droves to do that. But in this one, we're really talking about concrete stuff. And to get the idea across and just reiterate what Gina just said, this book that we've been talking about, your book, you should be looking at it in a different way. It's very likely that several of you were looking at it in I've got to get this book because this book is more in terms of the business. It's more of the business. And now you should know, you should realize that this book is one of the levers, one of the leverage points in an overall bigger business. That you shouldn't make the idea of writing a book so precious that you get the Stephen King syndrome. I'm a published author, and that's what I do. I write. That is not what any of you guys do. Of course, if it was true, you wouldn't even be on this workshop. It'd be coming to this workshop at the end of the month. You're not writers. You're not authors. You're not Stephen Kings. You're not that kind of thing where that's what you do. You understand that the book is part of an overall vortex strategy that pulls in customers and eyeballs to the things that you really actually make money on. You understand it as a lever now. So that's really important just for today. But to go beyond that, in this, it's going to be really awesome. It's a how-to all the way through. There's a lot of why, but included in that is you got to do this and you got to do this, and you guys will have that outcome that you want, that you've always wanted. So it's not like almost everybody who's graduated college at one point in their life, or people who haven't, at one point in their life or another, they'll say, yeah, that'll be in my book. And then you laugh. Well, now it's becoming not a joke anymore. Now you don't smirk at the end of that statement. From this day forward, and especially after this workshop, you're going to have every single tool in your palm that you need to actually make this a reality. And stop joking about it. Yeah, it'll be in my book someday if I ever get to it. Or, you know, that'll happen. Or you won't be sarcastic anymore. This is really going to happen for you.
We have assembled an all-star, world-class faculty for this event. Jack, why don't you tell them a little bit about each one of our faculty members, starting with Justin Sachs?
Well, Justin is one of the reasons, or the big reason that we have DU Press. He's a published author, and he helps thousands and thousands of authors get published, get their books done, and all the way through to the marketing, to get printed in different languages, to get just worldwide distribution. He's you know, for the people who know him, they know him in such a deep level, a meaningful thing that he helped them get their life's dream done. Because he doesn't just help people who are using books in the way that we're using books. He helps everybody, and it's entrepreneurial publishing. So in some sense or another, everybody that he's helped has been in the similar situation that you guys are in right now. So there's probably very few people in the world that understand what you guys need and who you are and what your concerns are and the things that have tripped you up in the past than Justin. And fixing those things. One of the most
dynamic 23-year-olds I have ever met has built a multi-million-dollar publishing enterprise, and he's only 23 years old.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Guy.
Yeah, everybody put your finger down your throat. Ugh. But yeah, I love knowing that that's possible.
Right? Next, Devin Michaels. Who the heck is Devin Michaels, and why are we so excited that he's joining us?
Well, he's a published author, and he's also, his business is helping people get a lot of the work done that would require normally a big paid in-house staff, but with outsourcing. So he shows people how to take systems, make systems out of your business and everything else, and he's also done the author thing. He also knows very, very much about this world and what you need to look for, what you need to look out for, and how to get this actually done instead of continuing to talk about it. So he's going to be a huge support, big time, in the workshop.
He's going to actually show you guys how you can use outsourcers to not only get your book out there, but really turn your book into a bestseller campaign just like he did, which is going to be great to see. And yesterday, we added a wonderful friend, Alsam Eldridge, to the faculty. Tell them just a tad about Elsom. We could go on about Elsom for hours.
Right. Elsom, I ran into him at a conference in the 2000s, early, mid-2000s, and he actually spoke at my conference. And he is the author of The Obvious Expert. And there's no bigger champion on the planet of why you should have a book and how you should get a book done as quickly as you possibly can, still make it super quality and everything, but get it done, because he was the guy in the crowd that always had a copy of his own book in his hand, just to prove the point. And you know, everybody he talked to, everybody he continues to talk to, it's just, he's opened so many doors for himself, but more importantly for tens of thousands of people who have run into him, who have read his books, who have gone to his conferences, seen him speak. He's really, really open. He's got a lot to do with the whole self-publishing industry taking off the way it has. He's got a part in all of that, worldwide, global, because of the way he's made it. He's broken it down and made it so easy for people who never, ever thought deep down, for real, that they were ever going to get a book done. They'd like to play with the idea. They're, oh, yeah, someday. He's opened so many tens of thousands of people's minds to it, and so many people are now published authors just because of him. Just because of his encouragement and the way he's broken it down over the years just to make it so easy for people to picture it, that he has a lot to do with why this whole self-publishing industry as a whole has taken off the way it has.
And next, we have our good friend, Tana Toronto, the founder of OSBO, the organization supporting business owners. Tell them a little about Tana, Jack.
She is, when you hear her and Gina on the phone, you don't expect to get many words in edgewise. They're both so similar in their connections with. Tana runs OSBO, organization supporting business owners, and it's osbo.org, and she's got tens and tens of thousands of people who are members there, who are connections there. When you talk about two connected women, these two are peas in a pod. I mean, their little black books are neither little, and Gina's not black, it's purple, but they're massive. And the connections that they have, the insights that Tana has for speakers and getting people on stage and authority and thought leadership and how you expand your business through all of those things. She has a very, very unique perspective on all of that, and she's going to be presenting about those topics as well.
And as soon as I can get back to the right tab, oh gosh. Next, we have Scott Manning.
Oh, yeah, you got to make his name light up. Well, you know Scott better than me, so I think you should do that. He's a Mr. Leverage and JV and all of that, but as it pertains to this,
boy, is he ever. Scott, his claim to fame is that he calls himself the highest paid practice consultant in the world. He helps practitioners, doctors, dentists, lawyers, etc., in gaining more leverage for their business by doing things a little bit differently. And in the process, he really helps them get their life back and create the lifestyle that they want, not just improve their business. Scott's biggest claim to fame is that years ago when Dan Kennedy and Bill Glazer got together to actually put together the Kennedy-Glazer Inner Circle, or Glazer-Kennedy Inner Circle, GKIC, that was actually Scott's idea and was partners with Bill Glazer in putting that whole thing together. So Scott is going to be here to share with you the secrets of gaining maximum leverage as an author. How do you leverage your content? How do you leverage the relationships? How do you really leverage the credibility that your book is going to help you to create? I cannot wait to share Scott with all of you. He is incredible. And then we have Ira Rosen and Corey Sanchez, the founders of Mojo Video Marketing. Ira and Corey are actually mastermind partners of mine. For the last 3.5 years, we've been meeting for not 1, but 2 hours each week. For me to spend 2 hours a week with anyone is very unusual, isn't it, Jack?
Yeah, I mean, if you guys could only see her calendar, having a 2-hour chunk dedicated to someone is a big deal.
So why the heck would I be willing to spend 2 hours a week with Ira and Corey? Well, it's because we spend half that time working on my business and half that time working on their business. And boy, oh boy, I can't think of anyone I'd rather use for building my business than strategists like Ira and Corey. They get it. They get the idea of what it means to serve to the best of your ability while strategically monetizing. Ira's brain is amazing. He can show you guys how to use the power of LinkedIn to really get your book out there in bigger ways. How to use LinkedIn to keep a full calendar of appointments and strategy sessions and generating leads for your business. And how to use the power of video and mobile marketing together to turn those leads into sales over and over and over again. On the workshop, we have so much that we're going to share with you. You can read about it at askggg.com/EAW. Shelby, if you could put that link in the chat, I'd appreciate it. I'm just going to do a quick highlight on the modules of this workshop so you can better understand how much value you're going to get and how much help you're going to get in building both your book and your business. We're really going to do a lot more detail around building your vortex, using your vortex to build the entire strategic plan for your business. We're going to help you understand the levels of awareness of your customers and prospects. Who are they? Where are they at in their thinking? That sort of thing. That module is going to be very interactive. So come with a really well thought out vision and goals for your business so that we can really help you leave this workshop with an actual vortex in hand. We're going to go into that in both Module 1 and Module 2. And as we go into Module 2, we're going to apply your vortex to actually planning your book. We're going to use that Lance Decker action planning system in more detail so that by the time you leave the workshop, you will actually have your chapters and your sub-chapters on note cards before you even leave. Then we're going to move into Chapter 3. You really can judge a book by its cover 99% of the time. More importantly, your prospects do judge your book by its cover. So Justin's going to be on hand to talk about the elements of a cover. What's important? What do you need to look for? What do you need to be thinking about? How do you put that all together? How does that help you build with your brand, etc.? Justin's going to be back again in Module 4 to talk about the different publishing models. We talked a lot today about CreateSpace, but that's only one publishing model. There are oh so many. How does Amazon fit into the publishing world? What's the difference between a vanity press and a traditional publisher? Which one is better for what you want to do? Should you be putting your book out there in print, in PDF, in Kindle, in audio, and whatever? And does it really matter? Why is that so important to you? In Module 5, we bring Scott Manning in to talk about leverage. How do you gain maximum leverage in your book, or through your book is a better way to say it? Why is that so important, and what can it do for your business? Justin comes back in Module 6 to help us go through marketing your book. Jack's going to be a big part of Module 6 as well. All the ways of marketing your book that bring leverage into the marketing so you don't have to work so hard at things. You can really let the results happen without having to struggle around it. In this module, I'm going to be talking about joint ventures and how joint ventures and strategic alliances can help make both your book and your business even more successful. Davin joins us for Module 7 when we talk about outsourcing in your book. You can't really outsource everything for your book. Many people think it's a good idea to hire a ghostwriter so that they can get the writing part done quickly. As I alluded to earlier, writing the book is only 5 to 10% of the work in the first place. Can you use a ghostwriter? You absolutely can, but you need to be strategic about it. You're building a relationship with your customers through your book. If you've got a ghostwriter writing it and it's not in your voice, who's that relationship really being built with, you or your ghostwriter? So we're going to talk about all the elements of outsourcing. What should you be outsourcing? What shouldn't you be outsourcing? How do you hire, train, and manage your outsourcers? Do it one way, you might get results. Do it the other way, you're guaranteed to get results. Module 8, Tana's going to be on hand to talk about webinars and your book. Boy, oh boy, when you are a best-selling author, what that can do to get webinars lined up for you is huge. Same is true with speaking engagements as well. Tana's going to talk about the whys of webinars, what kinds of webinars. Are these live? Are these not live? What software do you use for it? All of those wonderful things, including how do you get interviews, how do you get other people to interview, etc. Oops, Module 9 that I skipped by too fast. Let me see if I can get back to it real quick. I'll go through them out of order. In Module 10, we're going to do more of a panel discussion. Jack, why don't you talk about this while I try and get Module 9 back?
Okay. Well, we're going to have, as it says here, we're going to have 30 minutes to get our help. And remember, you guys, all the experience today that you've gotten is just me and Gina. This is everybody else is going to be involved with this, and the insights that they have, the stories they have to tell to show you how easy these things can be and how to do these things to get this book published, to get it written, to get it marketed. As you're done with the 5 to 10% of it, the book's done. The big part starts next. Now it's time to put that lever in action. So the expert panel will help doing a strategic plan for the book, marketing the book, turning the book into a bestseller, and use it to get leverage and momentum for the entire business, which we keep coming back to. It's always about the entire business. That's going to be really, really cool. And you guys get a chance to you know, talk about your specific issues, which is really, really cool. And they can apply their expertise to that. It really, really opens up the possibilities for you.
And why don't you talk about Module 9, the bestseller campaign? Justin's back for that as well.
Okay. Well, I mean, all the doors that were opened up after I sold so many copies of Power Linking, it started everything. It started everything that led right up to today for me. So, you know, I did the same thing with Bending the Web. I did the same thing with anything that I publish, whether it's a book, an ebook, a physical book, a membership site, or anything. They all apply. And there's really, really smart things that I've learned from people like Davin, and Davin has learned from others and also developed himself, that we've developed on our own and just kind of accidentally fell into, and also problems with those things, problems that come up that you might want to avoid, that we went through, that you shouldn't have to go through if you are paying attention, and say, don't do this. We tried it. It's not very good. It didn't work very well. But mainly just showing you guys exactly what you, the potential that you have out there and all the support that you've got. Another thing that comes with DU and being involved with us is anybody who's involved with us has got a really, really excellent chance of being recommended a lot. I mean, Gina, you saw her today recommend so many people, bring up so many people, people who are on the call, like Cher and Chiwa at petrights.com. You see what's happening right in front of you. These people are involved with DU, and these kinds of things happen. This is a pretty big webinar, and this webinar will be attended by a lot more people than are on it today. And so we have a lot of ways of making sure that anybody that's in our family gets help, and we help with our leverage, we help with our recommendations, and it's a pretty big family and growing.
It really is. In Module 11 is in our follow-up session on July 11th. That's when Elton Eldridge comes in and shares the 12-step process that he talks about with his book, The Obvious Expert, which has been both an Amazon and a New York Times bestseller. He talks about this concept of branding you now. Branding you now is actually an acronym for those 12 steps. And it's really what's going to help you turn your book into a powerful, memorable, and irresistible brand that will truly position you as the obvious expert in your niche and get people helping to build your credibility and your reach. It's an amazing, amazing system. And Jack, we've got some bonuses that we include. Can you talk about our bonuses for a minute?
We have a complimentary one-on-one strategy session with the DU strategy coach. And that is basically so you can get some one-on-one time with somebody who really, really knows their stuff, and you can kind of take this free line a little bit further and be able to ask questions about your business, where you are right now, what recommendations your strategy coach. It could be me and Gina, and we have other people who do our strategy sessions who have been trained by me and Gina, gone through strategy sessions to show how you be of service to the degree that is kind of a brand of DU. We are so of service. We you know, just like today, if you guys want to take everything that you learned today and just go out and knock it out of the park yourselves, you are, of course, able to do that. We didn't really hold back on anything at all, and we don't on strategy sessions either. So it's really, really a high-value thing ever to be able to talk to an expert about your business, about questions that you have that you know, you'd normally have to pay somebody $19.97 to get their attention, to get at the level that we are at. You're just not going to be able to get people to sit down with you for free, typically. It's just not going to happen. So that's the strategy session you get, and you also get Motivation to Profit membership. And that's really awesome because we're getting ready to do over 100 days of training this summer, starting in July, that we're going to be going through the whole Motivation to Profit training series, many, many different modules, with all of our faculty, with all of our new ELSOM and everybody else, the new faculty members that we have. It's 22 now, right?
23 of us. 23 of us.
23 faculty members, and you've seen a sampling of some of those today. They're all of that caliber. They're all really, really experts. Say it takes 10,000 hours of doing something to become an expert. These guys have all got their 10,000 hours plus in. So in every aspect of everything that it takes to grow this business that you want so badly to take off, to make the certain amount of profit, to be a certain amount of work and no more, so that you can have a lifestyle that goes with this business that's taking off, all of that starts with Motivation to Profit training. And you're getting, is it 3 months or is it 90 days?
90 days.
I like 90 days better. It sounds longer. 90 days instead of 3 months. And but it's awesome. So it brings you into the DU family. It gets you a better understanding. Really awesome training, all of that. You get great benefits out of that. But it's also getting you deeper into the DU family. And you know, I don't think we'll have time today, but if we did, we could get 20 people on right now to tell you why they love so much being in Directions University and being around this group of people. Gina's done an awesome job building this.
And the other really, really, really big bonus is a gift from one of our faculty, Davin Michaels. Davin is so into the idea of entrepreneurial authoring that he is willing to gift every person that comes to this workshop with 10 hours of virtual assistant services. If you were to go out and hire a VA, let's say you got a really good deal and you were paying them 20 bucks an hour. This is literally saving you 200 bucks hard cash to attend the workshop. It's yours. You do nothing other than claim it. It won't cost you a penny. You don't have to buy something to get it. It's simply included with your ticket to the workshop. And, you know, our mission, as we said at the beginning of this call, is to really help every person on this planet to live the life of their dreams. We can really only accomplish this by helping all of you to transform the lives of your customers, your readers when you're an author. And we ask simply, will you be the next entrepreneur that we help? You want to go to askggg.com/EAW, scroll down to the bottom, click on the Get Started Now button. Your ticket to this workshop right now has an early bird special discounted to $197. You can even use PayPal's Bill Me Later with the tuition. Jack, how does Bill Me Later work?
You get 6 months to pay with no interest, and it's really, really cool. It makes a no-brainer like this an even more no-brainer.
Yeah, so for $32.83 a month for the next 6 months, that's all it would take for you to come to this workshop. You go and use those VA services, you're actually it's funny, Jack, you're getting the workshop for free almost, right? 20 hours, 10 hours of VA services at $20 an hour is $200. Your tuition here is only $197. Really, really incredible thing. So anyone with any questions?
And as you're thinking about your questions, you can type them in, or you can let us know on audio if you unmute yourself. Or if we need to unmute you, just raise your hand or let us know in the chat. But my thing here is you guys have already come this far. And the purpose of today, one of the purposes of today was to find out, do these guys know their stuff? I don't think we really need to, get into that. I think we pretty much proven that that's the case. And even if we didn't know our stuff, look at our panel. So either way, you're covered. You've made that decision now that, okay, these guys know their stuff. They also know how to serve. They know how to give and give and give till it hurts. But it never actually hurts. We love doing it. We live on this. And in our business, the money follows our service. That's the way we do things. So we serve and the money follows. We don't go into business learning, or going after money, just saying, oh, well, maybe this will sell these guys. Maybe this will sell these guys. What we're selling here is actually hard, almost impossible to sell a bunch of people when you're just coming up with a product. We could have come up with a shiny object for you guys to buy, and that would have made a bunch of initial sales, and then we would have, you would have been off to the next shiny object. What we do is only really possible by sharing, by saying, look, you guys really need this. And here's an example. When you came in, you were like, I'm here to learn how to be a best-selling author. That's what the title said. That's what everything said. But if you were really paying attention to the parts of the presentation where we were like problem awareness, when we were talking about that, we knew that that's the problem that you guys were aware of, that you wanted solved. That was an issue that you needed. But then what did you get when you got here? You got so much more. You learned how the book actually fits into a real business. If any of you feel like you're on a treadmill right now with your businesses, this is the solution to that problem. It wasn't the problem that exactly you were asking for a solution for, but we gave that to you because we're not just going to show you, here, go do a best-selling book and then just not talk about anything else, because a best-selling book, like was repeated several times, doesn't get you anywhere necessarily if you don't know how to use that. And then you don't know where in your vortex, in your business plan, that actually fits to do the best good possible. So beyond the shadow of a doubt, I think we did a pretty good job of that, of convincing you that we pretty much know what we are doing. And maybe if we had a 1.5-day workshop, you guys could get down to the nitty-gritty, step-by-step, module 1 through, I think, 11 or whatever, however many modules there are, all of these things, and you owe it to yourself to do that because you've come this far. You're serious. You really want to get this book done. You really understand, at least on the cursory level that we were able to cover today, what that is going to do for your business. Now the next step is just getting this stuff done, and then going over all the details that you can't go over in a short webinar like this that has to be covered in a 1.5 day. And then when we make it so blindingly obvious that it's cheap enough for everybody to afford, I just want to see all you guys there. I want to see you there because I want to see you guys. The more people we can turn on, lights that we can turn on, and dreams that we can help in any way to come true, that's really how the money follows. If we can do that for bunches and bunches of people, we love that. Service first, and then however the money comes later. DU, of course, has its own inner circle. It has its own mid-level products. We live the vortex. We do what we teach. And so, we just have to keep turning on lights. And I see all these people that are still here, that there's no other reason for you to be here now. We've done all the content, right? We've done all the content. We're just talking about this workshop now. So there's really only one thing left for you guys to do and say, if I'm going to get this book done, if this is really going to happen, plus all this extra stuff I didn't even know I was going to get out of this, and I might even get my business in order, much better order. I might even be able to have a life with my business instead of a life that is my business. All of those things, so that's the next step, and that's where we are. And I just want to personally thank everybody for coming and taking the time to be here today. I know it's not easy for all of you to do this, and for thinking so much of what we're doing that you're still here and you're still listening. I really appreciate that, and thank you all very, very much.
Thank you all so much for being here. If you have any questions, I haven't seen any in the questions box. I do see one from Dawn, which I will answer for you before we leave. Anyone else that has one, pop one in the questions box, and I will answer there as well. We hope to see all of you when we start the workshop at noon on Thursday, June 26, 2014. Have a great week, everybody. See you guys all in just a couple of weeks.
Bye, everybody. Thanks.
Thanks, Jack.